I was at Bournemouth last weekend, and for half an hour there, they were absolutely played off the park by Bournemouth. Could have been 3 or 4 down. Second half, you were probably looking at a different team. And then they win it in the last minute. They go to Turin and pull off another last-minute win against Juventus, of all people. So I think their confidence is on the rise. Probably 10 days ago, you'd have said City are going to wipe United out in this fixture because they remain in white-hot form. But I've got a feeling Manchester United are going to get something from this game.
Wow. What's giving you that feeling, Ian?
Well, I just think they're playing better. They're playing a lot better. I think their confidence level will have been given a huge
Were they really
much
better? Were they much better in Turin? Didn't they just kind of get lucky at the end?
No, I don't think they got lucky. I think they stayed in the game. OK, they rode their luck a little bit with the woodwork getting hit a couple of times. And yes, Juventus are a better side than them. There's no question about that. But I thought, really, that there was a better work ethic in the team. And the form of Martial, I think, is very, very important to this improved Manchester United run. He's really showing what he can do at the moment. Whatever Mourinho's done, maybe at last he's put an arm around him. He's really firing. He scored in the last 4 Premier League games. And it's just a hunch, and sometimes these are just feelings and not really reasons. But I do think Manchester United are capable of getting some kind of result at City.
Well, if Man City spank them, all this positivity will go flying right out the window. I said congratulated them as I did on the midweek in the win. It was a great win. And clearly the form has improved. But I think that is an element of papering over the cracks here. As Ian mentioned himself, the fact that they got a result at Bournemouth was because Bournemouth were poor in the final third. They completely dominated the game. The fact that they got a result in Turin was more to do with Juventus than it was to do with Manchester United, because once again they were outplayed and Juve created so many chances, hit the post twice, Khedira missed a sitter, Cuadrado missed a sitter. So when you put all those things in the pot, then that's a reason for staying in the game. Actually being tactically spot on and not allowing Juventus, who are a better side, to get into the penalty area or the final third and create chances can be tactically, or should be tactically good, but that didn't happen. The fact that Juve, and it happens, the fact that Juve were poor in the final third is not a reason, as great a win as it was, to say Man United were tactically fantastic in Turin, because they weren't.
Do you think, for me, this is quite clear an example of how Manchester United's own bar has been lowered? All of a sudden, we're talking about 1-goal victories against Newcastle, Everton and Bournemouth as Manchester United turning the corner. Arguably, their best performance was against Chelsea in that draw. Yep. And let's be honest, they got the win, the 3 points against Juventus, but nobody can say that they fully deserved or they bossed that game or they hung on, and in the end, their aerial presence got them 3 points. But this is a different kettle of fish. This is not Bournemouth or Newcastle. Dare I say, this is a City team at home who will kill this game off in a fashion that Juventus simply didn't. I think this could be over quite quickly. I disagree strongly with Ian here. I think, given what we've seen from City, given how good they've been going forward, given how impressive in particular they've been at the back, I think this is over by the first half.
You can't keep performing poorly in the first 20 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it is of games. They did it. We touched on Bournemouth. You had the Newcastle game against a poor Newcastle side that are struggling, where they had the backs against the wall. I think it was 2-0 they were down. And they managed to clamber back, but they clamber back because Newcastle aren't good enough to shut a game out. Well, let's be frank here, right? It's ifs and buts. If City win this game at home, and they are favourites, there's a 12-point gap between themselves and Manchester United. So
after just 12 matches as well.
People need to slow down and say, you know, this is just a hatred of United, and it's not. It's an analysis of some decent results, but quite frankly, not great performances. And against the better teams, you usually get punished. They didn't in Turin, but trust me, City put 6 past Shakhtar, 6 past Southampton. They're scoring goals for fun. They will not be as profligate as the other teams.
Here we are then. Let's,
come on then.
You're not normally here for this, Craig.
Oh, he was all upset last week because Arsenal didn't get in.
I'm normally the one
because Arsenal were on a great run, and what about Arsenal and their run?
They only drew against Liverpool.
You got your dream. They're in.
You got your
Well, I
dream.
did say why they're not
Spurs
in.
are in at 9. Spurs' results have been better than their performances, but they get a little bit of love. And then not a whole lot to give between 8 and 7. PSG in at 8.
You don't remember, do
Napoli
you?
in at number 7. Chelsea in at number 6. No Champions League action, but they get the job done in Europa League. Come on down, baby.
Tell you what, you've got.
Oh, here we go. Go on. Yes, good.
There you
Let's
go.
do this again.
Inter in at number 5. Decent draw with Barcelona. Going very well. Well, nearly top at Serie A. At the top of Serie A.
Nearly top.
They're second. At the top, Juventus. Hang on despite that loss to Manchester United. Porto. Top in Portugal. Top of the Champions League. Fantastic. Top of the group of the Champions League. Fantastic run for them.
Why are you sliding across the floor like
Barcelona,
that?
after their draw, they drop 1. And City, after a wonderful week in League and Champions League, are top
Wow.
of this week's power rankings.
Are you coming back to join us, or are you
No,
staying there?
I'm staying over here.
I've been told that Sid and Ian are still with us. Oh, they'll be loving the fact that they've stayed for this. Ian, what do you make of Shaka's power rankings?
Well, there's a glaring omission there, isn't there? What about Red Star Belgrade, who pulled off one of the shock
yes.
results of the whole European season in beating Liverpool? I mean, nobody saw that coming, least of all Jurgen Klopp.
One
Shaka.
result is not enough
They
to
should
get
be
into these
there.
power rankings.
Oh, Shaka.
One result is not enough to get in here. Behave yourself, Ian. Anything else?
Well, they'll be
Sid,
very
you
hurt
better,
in
Sid,
Belgrade,
you better keep
Shaka.
quiet.
You'll be getting letters.
Sid?
Yeah, I'm missing a few teams. I mean, the first thing I don't put it as Shaq's just said, one result is not enough, but quite a lot of what he's just said about the teams in there seems to be based on just one result. For example, Inter Milan getting a draw against Barcelona, in which Barcelona absolutely walked all over them.
The second
and they
is
got a
Serie A,
lucky goal
Sid!
later on.
The second is Serie
Oh,
A!
so, okay, that's good enough. All right, then. Shall we take the second team from La Liga? Where are Espanyol in all this? And Man United just beat Juventus, so should Man United be in? And by the way, aren't Liverpool second in the Premier League, and shouldn't they be in? And the team I'm really missing, the only team I'm really missing is Haringey Borough, who played in the FA Cup tonight.
Yeah, and won. By the way, Sid,
That's about the only thing you've made all show.
you just made the cardinal mistake and assuming...
Haringey Borough's in there every time.
You just made the cardinal sin and assuming there was any logic in there in the first place. There's not.
Yeah,
We're trying to
that
say.
is true.
We're
I
trying to say.
apologise for that, and I'm going to
Thank
have
you
a
very
good
much.
look at myself.
Thank you to Sid and Ian.
Don't come back.
Right, Shaq, off
Don't
you
come
go.
back for my power
Jack.
ranking ever again, you two.
Shaq, next week, cut and paste on the board. Job done.
That'll be it. International week, isn't it, next week?
I'm coming back.
We'll be loving it.
Come on over here, son.
Ah, sit down now. I need a rest after that.
All right, it's good stuff. I think.
How did Tommy Smith ever do a
that.
top 25?
I have no idea. How much cut and pasting that is?
By the way,
A lot of content
if you
on
ever missed a show, you can download our daily podcast. You can also catch Extra Time on there as well. Welcome to Extra Time. Craig and Shaka here. Also, Ian and Sid. The first tweet is from somebody called Ian Dark.
No.
Is it really analysis if a pundit says it's a derby, anything can happen, form goes out the window? Does it really? What? You've been watching this show, Ian?
Oh, nothing could have been further from my mind from the lads there.
Sid, you wanted us to bring this up.
Yeah, I just like the idea of them being able to ride in on the back of it and saying, well, it's a derby and form goes out the window and you never know what might happen. also, people, it's worth pointing out that half the time we say things like this to escape from the terrible tragedy of making a prediction which then goes wrong and then everyone wading into us a couple of days later.
Hey, it can't be as bad as Gab's Classico prediction, let's face it. That is one for the ages.
Well, to be fair, this got misconstrued a little bit. I don't think anybody was really having a pop at anybody for a prediction on a game.
No.
Because, well, listen, everyone gets predictions wrong, otherwise we'd all be multi-millionaires on the lottery. But I think it was Mr. Mercotti's analysis of the situation at Real Madrid that may have got us a little hot under the collar.
I enjoyed that.
By the way, Ian's right. There's so many bland people taking a living out there from TV and radio who don't want to give a bloody opinion.
That's something you can't accuse of us. Yeah.
Listen, I'm happy to take. I'm happy to take the flak. I've got a thick skin, so I mean, at least have What are you nodding your head for? At least have an opinion.
Is there a commentating cliche that you avoid, or try to avoid, Ian, that or makes your skin crawl when you hear one of your colleagues say it?
Yeah, go USA!
I used to say that.
That has made Mr. Dark a very rich man.
Cliches are something you should avoid like the plague. That used to be the joke, didn't it?
Well played. Very, very good.
There it is. Okay.
Hey, my particular favourite, Dan, on that score, just very quickly, I love this. In Spain, not least because it seems sometimes that the role between radio and TV has been turned on its head and it's the wrong way around. But the amount of times, and there's one commentator who's particularly bad at this, but they all do it up to a point. The amount of times that they tell you during a match commentary which minute of the game you're in. You say, well, you see that little box in the top corner of the screen? I can read which minute in the game we're in. I don't need to be told every 5 minutes that we're coming up to 30 minutes and, we're in the 27th minute and it's the 42nd minute now. Yes, there's a clock. I can see it. Thank you.
Do you know what gets me? One of the things that gets me, and I was doing one of the games I did with our friend and colleague Derek Ray, is attendance watch.
Right.
So I never get this. So we're doing this. I mean, Birmingham v somebody in the FA Cup. It was dire and 0-0 on ESPN UK. And then all hear my ear. The attendance today is 16,000. Who cares? When people come on and say, well, the attendance at Wembley today is 57,846. I mean, nobody cares. Who cares?
Stats get me. You commentators should just have, like, 10 stats you're allowed to give a game, Ian, and then that's it. That's your quota film.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree if you're being serious about that, Dan. I think we should be telling stories and narratives, not bombarding the audience with statistics.
Exactly. Who cares?
The best commentators go with less... all the good commentators that I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot, they're all well prepared, but the ones that take the less... Even the ones that I've got a lot written down, don't use... I mean, like Derek, for example. Derek Ray has got 3,000 words written down in preparation, and by the way, they're tiny. I mean, only he can see them.
Yep.
Well, he doesn't even use 5% of that because you're commentating it. It's just a comfort blanket. You don't have to cram it all in. You know what I mean?
Unless it's 0-0 after 78 minutes, of course.
Well, then you just tell stories, bad ones.
Stats
are okay.
No, I'm easy. I'm all right.
Do you know what was annoying said today?
Well, many things annoying said.
So, I don't know. I never got to the bottom of this.
Right.
But retweeting praise, because you know I hate retweeting praise.
Right.
Anybody that does it, there should be a button on your phone when you retweet praise that it gives you an electric shock.
Right. Yeah.
It should be. If Twitter
flashes up, are you sure you want to do this?
Yes. So what's been another
one is people say sending out tweets saying thank you for all the compliments for my work. And there haven't actually been any, but it's just to deceive your bosses.
Yeah. I like for those that are asking. No one's asking.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your kind words.
That's not always true. People do sometimes ask.
Okay. Yeah. Sid, was Santi as handsome when he worked for ESPN as he is now? Surely he has the best hair of all current working managers. Wow.
He does have marvellous hair. Someone actually sent me a picture on Twitter the other day, and this is true. He has hair like Snake out of The Simpsons when he uses the cheese to kind of scrape it back. It's absolutely magnificent.
Yeah.
While Santi is handsome, I think the answer is Santi was equally handsome, but because he was sitting on a set with me and you, Dan, he looked $1 million.
No, surely. It's only now. It's only now.
Whoa. It's a good one, Sid.
Do you remember our trip in Santi's smart car, Sid?
Yes.
He was
there wasn't a lot of room in
charmer,
there.
wasn't he, Santi?
Tell you what, somebody go get me a violin, will you?
Wait, what's wrong?
Do you remember my...
Beautiful.
I'm going to look up Snake on Simpsons.
Let's have the exclusive here. Is he dyeing his hair or not? It's very dark.
Is he dyeing his hair? I don't know. Do you think it's a natural dye? I can't imagine Santi would ever dye his hair.
No, I think it's natural.
He's such a beautiful man.
He sat next to me in Paris in the studio. I'll give you good looking. Good luck to him.
Good luck to him.
I haven't played anybody yet, really, but good luck to him. I mean, I watched the Valladolid game. They were lucky. They were lucky in the Valladolid game.
Oh, they were awful.
They were awful in that game. So, I mean, you know, a lot of water to go under the bridge. Is that the right phrase?
No, water.
No, didn't think.
Not work.
I said water. You said
I don't think his hairstyle's going to keep getting the job, is it?
Oh,
It's
Ian,
going to be
come
the
on
results.
now. Let's not start having to go at hair, shall we?
No, better not.
Right. Next question. What really makes Craig Burley happy? I want to know, please.
Somebody answer this
I know,
question.
I know, we've got the answer, actually. Golf, his kids, and his dog. I don't think that's quite the right order.
Well, there's no particular...
There's one thing missing out of that list.
Yeah. But
And plays a rather prominent role in his life most evenings, all evenings.
The fire? Mm-hmm. The drive home?
the liquid refreshments you're referring to, Shaka?
He often makes stops on his drive home.
And he is putting that liquor store's kids through college.
I stopped to pick up groceries on the way home. Yes, I do.
Somehow there's only ever one item on your grocery
I
list.
stop to pick up groceries, and then when I go home, I play with
drink
the
the
dog.
groceries.
I drink the groceries.
Greetings, everyone. Out of the current batch of players reaching their twilight or players already retired, whom would you like to welcome to the pundit table along with yourselves? Who should I start to recruit? I'm going to go to Sid first, because I reckon Sid would say Juan Mata.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, to go back to what Ian was saying at the very start about trying to break through the cliches, about trying to have some depth of the analysis, about trying to have some genuine insight. One of the problems, of course, is that sometimes players are not prepared to say as much as they know, but obviously once they're ex-players, hopefully so. So I suppose you go for someone analytical like a Xabi Alonso, for example. I think he'd be very, very good.
Alonso was my second guess. I should have gone with that.
Most of them go into this role and still don't want to say anything because they're worried about upsetting the manager and they're used to play with that player. And
but for people who don't know, that was a case in point with you and Celtic, wasn't it? In the fact that you were a big deal when you played for Celtic, and Player of the Year, and then you criticise them on television and they all hate you now.
Well, I think there's one or two that like me. I mean, only...
I don't think there are.
Well, the thing being is Chelsea was the same. I made a conscious decision when I went in to do this job, I think it was 2004, on a full-time basis, that I wasn't a player anymore. And I've had my fallouts with players and managers. But I'm not going to the detriment of doing my job, I'm not going to not say anything. It's not my style, as you well know. So, yeah, it does get you in a bit of trouble. But the one guy I would say, the guy that I played with, who I think is, I don't know how strong he goes, but he's very analytical and he's very good and he does work in TV in Italy, is Gianluca Vialli.
Right.
He's very astute and he's very eloquent and speaks great English. And he actually, funny enough, speaks pretty good Italian as well. But he's very good.
Did Gab write his book?
And he's, as he would say, hello, chap, he's a lovely chap.
Oh,
he's a nice fella.
Ian,
Yeah,
who would
he is
you
a
want?
man.
Who would you want to be your co-coms?
I think Peter Crouch is quite entertaining addition
Have you listened to his
the
podcast,
media, isn't
Ian?
he?
Do you know
yeah,
what
I've listened
podcast?
to that, and I started reading his book.
Do you know what a podcast
It's
is?
very entertaining. Yes, of course I know what I'm.
Do you know what?
We used to have podcasts when we were flying those Spitfires, you know.
Right, I know you know what a podcast is, but do you know how to get the podcast?
Of course.
There you go.
Yes.
We
You have to ask Stevie that. That's a question you have to ask Stevie. That's a Stevie question.
Stevie can't.
No, he can't.
Yeah.
Stevie can't.
I think Ian's got it. Ian knows.
Shaka, who would you?
I don't know.
What?
Shaka, you look very invested in extra time today. What's that?
Who that you played with?
Maybe he doesn't want to lose his
No, I
job.
don't know.
Doesn't want to lose his job.
All right.
I don't know.
Well, one of us is going to have to go.
That's it.
Producer Santino Esprilla. Who's a nut.
We met him. Where did we meet him?
Champions League final.
Yeah, he works for ESPN down in Colombia.
Because he dresses up as a dinosaur and things.
Right, he posts a whole. I don't know if it's he dressing up, but he posts a whole lot of dinosaur videos.
Yeah. Didn't he say to us to tell you that you were a terrible
told Ali,
goalkeeper?
yeah, told Ali that. Yeah. was the only goalie he ever met with no
So he's
arms.
clearly an intelligent pundit who knows what he's talking about.
There you go.
You shut up, Sid. You shut up.
I think that's it.
And yeah, the video, by the way, the video is brilliant of Tino Esprilla dressed as a dinosaur on the back of a horse, and the horse is playing football. Look it up. It's absolutely fantastic.
What the internet's all about. I think we have phone. I think we finished extra time. Have we not?
I was just warming up.
Craig can make his trip to
Groceries.
groceries. Liquid groceries. Alexis is
I
back
could
tomorrow.
complain about this.
She'll be joined by Shaka.
Yeah.
What games are there tomorrow?
I don't know.
Good. Oh, Dortmund Bayern.
Yeah. Spurs Palace.
Right, well,
Lovely.
I didn't need to say that.
I'm actually going to the bar tonight.
Oh, Boca River as well.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, we're still in football.
As you can imagine, some of the curmudgeons here haven't received this news particularly well.
Surely not.
He's retired. What's he doing? Why are they doing this? Where do you stand on it?
Well, do you know what? My view of it is let's show a bit of a generosity of spirit here. There's obviously a ticket-selling element to this in putting Rooney back to have this farewell. It hasn't been done for other players. I get all of the argument, but there's nobody being left out of the squad to accommodate Rooney. It's an expanded squad. He's only going to come on as a substitute. I say it's pretty harmless, really, in the end. He's going to come on. People are going to applaud him. He's going to play for, I don't know, quarter of an hour or so at the end of the game. And it is just a way of saying thanks to England's record goal scorer, after all.
So where do we finish? Where do we end it with other players coming back? And
yeah, but other players aren't England's record goal scorer,
Before
Craig.
we start, Wayne Rooney has been a fantastic player. No issues with him as a player. I've got issues with this kind of scenario. Let me just point you out a couple of things here. He retired from international football, Ian, over a year ago. This game is now called the Wayne Rooney Foundation International. I mean, are we being serious? Southgate is asking the players to respect Wayne Rooney. I think that tells a story. And all this applauding the fans. And this is no slight, I'm just giving you some context. In 2010 World Cup, Wayne Rooney had a pop into the camera about the England fans, right? 2016, Wayne Rooney was booed off the field at the end of the game by England fans after the game against Malta. And as good a player and record goal scorer as he is, he has one goal at 3 World Cups for England, right? I don't see the big need here to be celebrating any player. You could do it via a presentation on the pitch, but you shouldn't be using an international game, friendly or not, to bring back a player who retired over a year ago and has not always had a special relationship with the England fans.
Ian?
Yeah, but over 15 years, there are bound to be the odd incident involving Rooney.
Right.
I think generally, I mean, he's played, what is it? It's going to be his 120th cap. I'm not making a big argument in favour of this or saying it should be something that should be taken up on a regular basis. What I think I'm saying is I just can't get that worked up about it, frankly.
No, I'm not worked up about it either, to be honest. I just think some context. I mean, having retired from international football myself, and I saw other players
you
retire.
could get a recall.
No, well, I didn't get that choice. But had I got that choice, I can categorically tell you that I'm certainly not in the camp of a player who should retire and then come back again because somebody's rubbing my back and saying, oh, this is going to be great, come back and join us. And if it's all about this playing the US nonsense, then let Ashley Cole come and play, because he's playing the US. In fact, if it's such a game and the US are involved, give a cap to Bradley Wright Phillips, who's knocking their socks off over here in Major League Soccer. I just think we've got to get past this international friendly, let's have a waving to the crowd scenario. For me, it just makes a mockery of a game, and I know it's a friendly.
AC Milan entertain Juventus. The gap's certainly bigger, 10 points between these two sides. I imagine a lot more pressure on Milan to put in a good performance going into this game.
Yeah, I think there's certainly more pressure on Milan. Remember, too, they've gotten some good results of late, but they haven't been followed by performances. The good news for Milan is that Gonzalo Higuain will, in fact, be fit. There were some question marks around that. But equally, of course, injury concerns with Çalhanoğlu. Lucas Biglia is going to be out 4 months, and you might say, hey, what's the big deal? It's only Lucas Biglia. But, of course, Biglia, pretty fundamental, pretty crucial to the way this Milan team play. as far as Juventus, they're obviously coming off that midweek loss at home to Manchester United. Not often they lose at home. But I think, Dan, it was one of those defeats that isn't going to hurt so much because they're still top of the table in the Champions League. They played really, really well. It was two late goals. So certainly the media and the environment definitely giving Juventus a pass for this one.
So far, so good for Santi Solari. Perfect, in fact. 3 games, 3 victories compared to those previous 7 matches, which resulted in just the 1 win over Lopetegui. As we welcome Sid Lowe into the show. Sid, what's he done different?
Well, in a way, I'm tempted, Dan, to kind of throw the question back at you and say, think back to Santi Solari when he was on ESPN, and what was he like? Well, he was knowledgeable, intelligent, entirely convincing, very, very good company. I think one of the things that he's done at Real Madrid, I mean, it's obviously a very, very short period of time and it's very early to make really significant judgments, but he's reached the dressing room. He's got his message across. He's done things in a sensible way. I also think if you look at it in purely footballing terms, perhaps over the last, certainly the last away game in the Champions League, I think perhaps you could say that he's pushed an extra man alongside Casemiro, so it's 2 protecting the back 4. And the other thing I think he's done, although it might be a step too far to see this early, is I think he's turned towards the players who are in physically better shape as well, to try and give them a bit more of a physical presence on the pitch.
Is it his for the rest of the season now?
Well, I mean, you have to put this into the context. Now, the fundamental thing here, of course, is that he has 1 more game against Celta de Vigo on Sunday night before Real Madrid have to make a permanent appointment. Now, obviously, permanent appointment, I suppose in a way, no manager is ever a permanent appointment at any club, and still less at Real Madrid. So they could name him as the permanent manager and then replace him if at some stage they feel the need to do so. But given the context of the difficulty of finding someone for the long term, given the context of the fact that they feel like the market will have shifted by the summer and that maybe then is the time to make this kind of permanent change rather than now, I think there is a reasonably strong chance that, yes, he will be given this job at least until the end of the season. And obviously, of course, if things go well, then maybe beyond it. But as I say, it's worth pointing this thing out. Even if they say on Tuesday, right, Santi Solari is our permanent manager, imagine that he then goes on a 10-game losing run. Well, he won't be permanent for very long.
No question, the big game in the Bundesliga this weekend sees Borussia Dortmund play host to Bayern Munich. 4 points separate these two sides going into this clash as we welcome Gab Marcotti to the show. Gab, how excited are you about this game?
I'm very excited, Dan, because the stakes are very, very high here. Look, if Borussia Dortmund go and win this game, Bayern Munich 7 points back by the time they play again. It's going to be late November, so I'm going to say 7 points back in late November. It's been a long time since we've seen that. A lot of credit has to go to Borussia Dortmund, to Lucien Favre coming in. He was the veteran coach. He was the coach with more tactical nous. He's put together a really nicely balanced blend between, older heads, older quality, the likes of Axel Witsel and Marco Reus, and of course young guns like Paco Alcácer, like Brun Larsen, like Jadon Sancho, who's ripping it up. And they're up against a Bayern team who, let's not forget, they've got a whole rash of injuries from Arjen Robben to Kingsley Coman to, of course, Tolisso. They've got a manager in Kovac who's been kind of attacked from a number of sides, rumors of unrest in the dressing room. He has the backing of the people at the top. But, with Bayern Munich, you simply never know. So I think it's going to be a really interesting study in contrast. And bear this in mind, too. Borussia Dortmund, they were undefeated, one of only 3 undefeated teams in Europe going into midweek. They lost to Atletico Madrid, and you wonder if that's going to take a little bit of wind out of their sails.
They were in control, 1-0. At what is Providence Park, you're in the driver's seat, and then it comes undone. Christian Roldan, Chad Marshall, the belief isn't there. But you got the goals at home, and if you can get the goals at home, you have to close up shop. But credit is due to Giovanni Savarese and what he's been able to do. This season he comes in, Fernando Ari's not on board, you're out. Liam Ridgewell wasn't on board, you're out. Armenteros wasn't on board, you're out. I want players who are with me, who are committed, and what they managed to do against their biggest rival at their home field will be lived for forever in the hearts of the Portland Timbers.
Forget the opening 65 minutes. From then on, this game you couldn't take your eyes off it.
Entertaining.
It's unbelievable.
It wasn't quality football by any means. It was downright, at times, unwatchable as far as technical ability, as far as making it somewhat, I guess, attractive to the eye. But the entertainment factor in this game was off the charts. You couldn't walk away for a second because you knew at any second it could be another goal, it could be another suspension, it could be another red card. Whatever happened, this game had all the works.
How did Sebastian Blanco not know?
Zarek Valentin is a player who's telling him, no, Sebastian, we still haven't won. And you can literally read his lips, no, I don't believe it. It's unfathomable how at this stage you have players who are competing at this level, and you can call it whatever you want, the heat of the moment, but to not know. And sometimes you look at the Portland Timbers, and the way they were counterattacking, a lot of those players didn't know because they weren't looking for the goal. They were looking to close out the games and close out this game and take it to penalties. It was, I've never seen, have you ever seen anything like that?
If you don't know, as Herc said, then it affects the way, particularly as the game goes into the dying minutes, it affects the way you approach your setup to your team. It affects your mindset. It's a bit like winning a game 1-0 with 5 minutes to go. You just sit in and keep tight and make sure you don't send too many people forward. So fortunately, he got away with it.
Yeah.
And I think from here on forward, he will know what the
know.
scenario is.
There's a spin, isn't there? I've seen some tweets suggesting that he did know and he was just celebrating they got to penalties.
Okay.
You could look on the bewildered look on his face when Zarek Valentin is telling him, literally, bro, we haven't passed yet. He didn't know where he was. He wanted to hide. It was a little embarrassing, but like you said, top entertainment for the rest of us.
I've never known a player ever celebrate a big game going to penalties.
Especially 11v11. We've seen it when a team's down, maybe one or two players. Like,
No, nobody celebrates going to penalties. Nobody celebrates.
Played in games that's gone to penalties, and with 10, 15 minutes to go of extra time, we're like, no, it's going to go to penalties. I'm going to have to take one.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So players do not celebrate.
But he did score his penalty in there.
He did.
Yeah, there you go.
But this goes to show how physically fatigued these players were, that it translated to mental fatigue. The fact that they were on 3 days less rest than the rest of the league.
Is mental fatigue being generous?
Yeah, it is, you're right. But to go on turf in Portland, to go on turf then in Seattle, and go extra time and have, you saw it. It wasn't by any means they were in an extra gear that's final 20, 25 minutes. It almost seems like who was going to make the mistake? Nobody wanted to make that mistake.